Hi, you're tuning into Out for Undergraduate Business Conferences Consulting 101. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about consulting, and I'll give a brief introduction of who I am and my experience, what consulting is, what consultants typically do, and why people choose consulting in general. So to give you a little bit of background on myself, my name is Pierre Coker, and I graduated from Harvard and was a major in economics. I joined consulting and have been working there for about 3 years with a mostly strategy consulting firm, and worked across a really wide range of industries and different types of strategy projects. So what is consulting? Consulting is about helping companies explore and find answers to their big questions. It can range from identifying high-value growth opportunities to identifying how to create efficiencies and optimizations within their own organizational structures and management, helping them think about their vision or a marketing plan or customers. It's really a wide range of different opportunities, and in consulting you'll kind of touch on a variety of different problems. Consulting is typically organized into verticals and horizontals, and what we mean by that is vertical industry-specific sectors or horizontal strategy types or areas in which you can focus. For example, you can work within retail, particular industry, and work on a variety of projects that may span corporate development, strategy, operations, marketing, innovation, just to name a few. My experience has been mostly in corporate strategy, where it's really thinking about those high-level questions that guide how a company will grow over the next 3 to 5 years. And you can get to the operations side, which is really how you execute on that. Next, we'll talk about what is consulting exactly, and what are the types of questions that we help our clients to answer. So previously we talked about different types of horizontals that work in the consulting market. And if we think about corporate development, for example, the types of questions we may answer there are how should we structure this acquisition, or should we approach a merger potential opportunity? In corporate strategy, you may think about what profit pools are growing and how we can best take advantage of them given our current position. An operational question could be as simple as how can we simplify our procurement process, or you may think about additional supply chain management questions. In marketing, typically we think about focusing our messages on consumers. So how do we develop and deliver messages that create customer loyalty, for example? Innovation typically begins a much broader scope of questions. How do we build a culture and process of innovation? But what does that result in a typical day for a consultant? What do these questions mean when consultants actually go to work? Consultants help our clients ask for help with a wide variety of problems. We go through typical analysis, which is very data-oriented, background research on secondary markets or primary market research. There's lots of client meetings, team meetings where you work internally with other members of your team to brainstorm, and training and other office activities are typically part of your day. The workload in consulting can vary significantly from week to week. Typically, you may have a project where you're working 9 to 5, but that's usually less than the average. Most of the time, you're working a little bit more than that. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But the hours that you put in are a significant learning opportunity. An associate's work, typically 55 hours a week, I'd say, is about average. If you're working more than that, potentially for a week or two, you'll be working really long hours, but it typically balances out where you'll be working less than 40 hours, or if you're between projects, you actually have a lot of free time to yourself. A typical year as a consultant is a combination of your actual casework, formal training, overall office events in your community, and then that extra involvement that you decide that you want to participate in, which is something like OUBC. Case experience can range from internal meetings with your project team, client meetings, as well as actually creating the content for your opportunity. And it can be several projects lasting from several weeks at a time or several months. Typically, I think a project is usually around 2 to 3 months, although longer projects may be up to 6 months or even a year in certain situations. In consulting, a couple times a year, you're going to have formal training, which is an opportunity to meet your coworkers and develop your day-to-day skills. But there's also a lot of perks of consulting. There's several office events typically throughout the year, including holiday parties, or on one occasion my firm went on a sailing trip through the Hudson River. And there's also time for you to develop those interests that you have outside of your day-to-day casework, and that's the extra 10% where you really invest in what makes your experience at your firm really different. Typically, a week in the life of a consultant is jam-packed with lots of different activities. There's opportunities for you to brainstorm and try and actually create the plan of attack for how you approach a question. There's meetings with the clients, and typically in most consulting firms, you'll be on site with the client between Monday and Thursday or between Tuesday and Thursday, typically from 3 to 4 days of the week. You'll be actually working on client site and getting to meet them and understand their industry. But it's not just client problems and cracking the issue and kind of directing your plan of attack, but there's also internal meetings and the opportunity for you to create those fun opportunities in your day-to-day. So why choose consulting? I think this is a really difficult question to answer for a lot of people, but in my experience, consulting has really afforded a lot of different opportunities, both in networking and the types of impact that you're really having on the firm that you're working with. In my experience, I actually worked with a luxury retail company on their innovation and brand strategy for fragrance and cosmetics, and I was working directly with the global VP of marketing for the entire brand. And we sat in a room and developed what they were going to do for the next 3 to 5 years in order to double their revenues each year, because they really believed that they were undervalued relative to what they could get in the market overall. And those meetings that we had on a day-to-day basis resulted in huge impact for the firm. And while it was crazy hours and crazy personalities, if you can imagine consumer retail, it was really a great opportunity to have exposure at such a young age to really high-powered executives that were moving luxury brands that you hear and see in the market every day. So if you're interested in finding those types of opportunities and being given that type of responsibility throughout different industries and different strategic questions, consulting is going to be a great opportunity for you to learn. So if you've decided you want to do consulting, where do you work? A lot of people say, and it's really important, that people and culture is what makes or breaks the decision to join a particular firm. You'll be working with these people day in and day out, sometimes locked in a room for hours at a time. If you don't like them, it's not going to be an enjoyable place to work. So people and culture is actually extremely important. But there's also thinking about how your career path can change and what types of opportunities and networks a particular firm will give you. Typically, larger firms may have better networks or larger networks that have been more established and give different opportunities in terms of their industry connections or alumni connections with particular business schools. But smaller firms also afford you the opportunity to take on larger responsibilities from an early age and develop very different skill sets that can improve your career path in the long term. So what is that future career path? A lot of consultants spend 2 to 3 years working in an analyst position, and if they decide to leave the firm, there's business school, which is a very large percentage of consultants go to business school after a few years, and then there's actually a lot of industry opportunity for you to move out of consulting into an industry that you've worked with or developed an interest in because of your broad exposure. But you're not just limited to those industries. There's actually opportunities to move between consulting and finance is pretty typical. Private equity and venture capital is another large percentage of where people go. But basically, you'll have the experience and skill set to work anywhere. So as I was mentioning before, consulting affords you the opportunity to go to a number of different places. It's really a fast-paced career that gives you a lot of opportunity and responsibility from a young age, right out of undergrad, and you can truly shape your experience through getting a wide range of exposure to a variety of different industries. And really, you just have to ask yourself the question, if you really like problem solving and helping clients tackle the big questions, then maybe consulting is the right opportunity for you. This has been Consulting 101 out for Undergraduate Business Conference, and thanks so much for listening, and hope to see you in the conference in the future.